Welcome to everybody. It's very exciting for me to be here. I'm Marissa Wesley, one of the co-chairs of the Programming Committee for Celebration 60. And I would have to say, particularly given that role, I am absolutely thrilled to be kicking off this wonderful celebration of 60 years of women graduates from Harvard Law School. I've been tasked with a very short and simple job, which is to introduce somebody who needs absolutely no introduction, Dean Martha Minow, who is the Morgan and Helen Shue Dean and Professor of Law here at the law school, and has been teaching here since 1981, which is sadly the year after I graduated, so I never got to take her class. She is an expert in human rights with a focus on religious and racial minorities, women and children, and people with disabilities, but her scholarship is incredibly wide-ranging and encompasses private contractors in the military, management of mass torts, transitional justice, and the intersection of law, culture, and social change, which is a subject very near and dear to my heart. Her published works are voluminous. I can't even begin to go there. There are more than 150 articles and more than a half a dozen books, and her scholarship is remarkable. Aside from her day job as Dean of the Law School, since that doesn't take very much time, she's also Vice Chair of the Board of the Legal Services Corporation, having been appointed by President Obama and approved by the Senate, and is the co-chair of their pro bono task force. And she's also on the Board of Trustees of the MacArthur Foundation. Dean Minow graduated Phi Beta Kappa from the University of Michigan and the Harvard Graduate School of Education. She actually attended Yale Law School before she went and clerked for Judge David Bazelon and Justice Thurgood Marshall. She's a member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, the American Philosophical Society, and has received numerous awards, and I will have to put on my glasses to actually read them, but there are, to name a few, the Sachs Friend Teaching Award at Harvard Law School, the Holocaust Center Award, the Radcliffe Graduate Society Medal, the Trinity College History Society Gold Medal, and 7 honorary doctorates, which is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But on a personal note, this celebration would not happen without Dean Minow. She has been an unbelievable supporter of it, a cheerleader for it. She has been available absolutely at the drop of a hat for advice. She's made phone calls, she's extended invitations, and she's even agreed to moderate a panel on national security, counterterrorism, and the rule of law tomorrow, so we're very excited about that. I have been incredibly lucky to have the most fabulous co-chair, Brandy Stellings, to have Karen Chance as the Director of Alumni Relations, she and her staff have done more than anyone could possibly imagine, as well as a programming committee who is the most energetic and inspired that I've ever seen. They just did everything. So I'm thrilled about all of that, but it wouldn't have happened without Dean Minow. So without further ado, the stage is yours.
Hello, how are you? I think this is the best sight I have seen in this room. This is it. This is the best. This is fantastic. I am absolutely thrilled. Thank you, Marissa, for that lovely introduction and for your superb leadership. Co-chair of this program, thank you, Brandy. Thank you, Karen. Throughout this weekend, we will see the brilliant and hard work that led to this conference. The organizers include our honorary co-chairs, 10 extraordinary individuals who made history as the first women graduates, class of 1953. Our honorary committee actually includes members of classes spanning from 1964 to 2013, 33 alumni. And the chairs and the committee chairs, those engaged in outreach, sponsorship, logistics, programming, visual arts are named in the program. And I just have to say, you guys know how to organize. Please join me all in just applauding them. We will talk about tradition here. It is Harvard Law School. We'll talk about tradition, but that means we're going to talk about traditions to celebrate and traditions to break. Because we celebrate here not only when Harvard Law School opens its doors to women, but also the grand tradition of breaking tradition and making new ones, like the relatively new tradition of celebrating women. And the tradition of leadership by women students and alumni in doing just that. In a funny way, Harvard Law School is filled with the tradition of breaking tradition. You know, it was launched in 1817. We're coming close to the 200th anniversary. The law school actually had a lot of ups and downs. One year it got down to one student. Until September of 1870, when Christopher Columbus Langdell came to pursue new shores, and he became dean, and one of the things that he wanted to do was make the school competitive, meritocratic, and that's when he introduced the Socratic method and the case method. 1 year later, 1871, Helen Sawyer, a 27-year-old woman living in New Hampshire, applied to be a student at the Harvard Law School. She said that she trusted that under the present liberal tone of Harvard, my sex will pose no misfortune to me. Interestingly, the Harvard Law School faculty, which was not very many people, actually passed on her request to Harvard University president, then Charles Eliot. He, in turn, passed it on to the Harvard Corporation. You know what happened. They engaged in what the minutes show as a full discussion. It extended over 2 meetings, and then they rejected her. Now, matters were not helped much when 2 years later, Edward Clark, a professor at the Harvard Medical School, published a book called Sex in Education, or A Fair Chance for the Girls. This book, steeped in the learning of the time, argued that young women should not attend college because doing so would divert blood away from the uterus to the brain. He said this is not based on myth, this is based on science, and it would render the women, and I'm quoting, irritable and infertile. The first edition of Clark's book sold out in 1 week. It remained a bestseller for years. The same year of the publication of that book, the United States Supreme Court refused to permit Myra Bradwell's application to be admitted to the bar of Illinois. Women fought for the vote, as we know, and finally get it with the 19th Amendment in 1920, and by 1930, almost every law school in America has women, but not Harvard. By the 1940s, by World War II, 25% of the students enrolled in law schools in the country are women. The percentage at Harvard Law School? 0. Percentage of women on the Harvard Law School faculty? 0. It took Harvard a long time, and all the more reason that we celebrate the smashing of the HLS tradition of exclusion that began with the graduation of the first women in 1953. Now, 1953 is a good year. It's the same year that saw England crown Queen Elizabeth, right? It's also the same year that Playboy published its first issue with Marilyn Monroe as a centerfold. The most popular TV show in 1953, anybody know? I Love Lucy, where, of course, Lucille Ball is portrayed as a ditzy person, but she was so savvy. She built this media empire. It's the same year that Francis Crick and James Watson published their findings decoding the DNA genome. But you know what they didn't do? They did not acknowledge Rosalind Franklin, who actually had done the critical work in identifying the shape of the spiral. So 1953 is, to put it mildly, a complicated point in time in the history of women's equality. 13 women, 11 JD students, and 2 LLMs graduated from Harvard Law School, along with 250 men. The women were excluded from the dorms. The women found the sole ladies' room in the basement of Austin Hall. The women suffered through Professor Barton Leach's Ladies' Day. You remember the single class a month when he called on women, typically with gender stereotypes behind the questions? Based on the photograph taken just before their graduation in 1953, this first group of women were pathbreakers. They were gutsy. And we have actually now a painting based on that photograph that hangs in Langdale Hall on the first floor of the library. And boy, it's great to have women's faces on the walls of this place. We will celebrate here this weekend in the best tradition, with ideas, with conversations, in big groups, in small groups, with hugs, with arguments, and with reunions of old friends and chances to make new ones, including with some of our amazing students who are dying to meet you and be with you. I want to thank the superb sponsors who are listed in the program on page 6 and on this poster, individuals, law firms, companies whose support enables us to celebrate in style. And to honor the first women graduates, we will celebrate accomplishments, but also turn squarely to the work that remains to be done at Harvard, in the United States, in the world. We will engage with extraordinary keynote speakers. We will participate in discussions about diversity, about national security and what it means, human rights, law reform, and what it's like to work in all the different kinds of settings where you have worked, you have been pathbreakers. Large firms, small firms, in-house, entrepreneurs, law professors, on boards, and in brilliant and unusual careers. We will hear from speakers about building new technologies, exercising power, advancing women's economic and physical security, and being your own boss. I'm going to that one. These topics reflect the issues of our times, and that includes the repercussions of the global economic downturn, the shock to law practice around the world, the cuts in budgets for courts, the cuts in resources for legal services, new barriers to access to justice, glass ceilings, gender pay gaps, double challenges for women of color and for immigrant women, the double shift of work that so many women face as we return home from one long day to another long night, and the new challenges of subtle exclusions. Current law students are so inspired by you that they have organized 3 events, and check them out, because they would love to see you. When I joined this faculty 32 years ago, I was 12. I was the 3rd woman on the faculty. If 2 of us were seen talking to each other in the hall, invariably, the question was, are you up to a cabal? Always. And as 2 of us, as chance would have it, were named Martha, henceforth, our colleagues just call any woman Martha. It's much easier that way. The number of women on the faculty has grown, but not enough. We have more than 50 women who teach here as professors, clinical professors, instructors, visitors, lecturers. And since I've been dean, we've added women to the full-time faculty. Last week, we announced the newest one. Intisar Rab, a leading expert in Islamic law and legal history, will join us as a tenured professor in January. Thank you. Now, here's one of the problems. Some of the women come here and join the faculty and they leave. 2 left recently, but they had good reasons. They're called the Senate and the Supreme Court. Now, speaking of Justice Kagan, we think of her daily because she designed this glorious building. This 3-wing building that has a clunky name, but be sure to spend time here in Wasserstein Hall, the Casperson Student Center, the Clinical Wing building, complete with fireplaces, 40 seminar and study rooms, terrific classrooms that make it feel like you're in an intimate setting and you can hear everybody and see everybody, and yeah, you can't hide, and hangout spaces, and rooms for student organizations that are not in the basement. Now, I confess, the plans were done, and a hole was dug, and Elena left town. And the hole was literal and also financial. So I'm still working to pay off the mortgage, and one of the first things that I did was I canceled the art budget for the building. As a result, we had to be somewhat creative. So when you have a chance, go out in the room out here, and what we did is we summoned the greatest resource we have here, the people. And we asked for suggestions of quotations about justice, and that's what we did. Let's take a look. They include words of Marian Wright Edelman, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, George Eliot, and from an African proverb attributed to Anonymous, but we all know Anonymous was a woman. One of my favorite quotes, which is, "Corn can't expect justice from a court composed of chickens." It's a good one. The Visual Arts Committee for Celebration 60 collected superb images that we will see all weekend, including 18 pairs of mothers and daughters, all students of Harvard Law School, dynamic duos. Progress on the gender front at Harvard Law School, this year's JD class is 49.4%. The LLM class is more than 50% women. So the women are everywhere. Nationwide, women hold about 33% of the legal jobs as lawyers, judges, arbitrators, compared with 1970 when it was 5%. We have so many women alumni with so many hopes and accomplishments, wisdom and energy to share that we had to build this building for this celebration. Across the country, 31% of current active judges in the federal courts are women. Here at Harvard, 2 former judges serve on our faculty. Margaret Marshall, former Chief Justice of the Supreme Judicial Court of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and Nancy Gertner, Professor of Practice who served for 17 years as U.S. District Court Judge after an equally distinguished career as an advocate for civil rights, criminal defense, and women's rights. I am thrilled to have the opportunity right now to honor one of my own heroes, a judicial hero, a heroine. I don't know, what do you say? Hero? Let's have a vote. Hero? Shiro? But I'm really so thrilled to have the chance to recognize her and all of our alumni judges. So Justice Ruth Abrams, will you come forward? I'm going to say something. That's so nice. I'm going to say something. Graduate of Radcliffe College, Ruth enrolled in Harvard Law School as one of the very few women in the class. She was one of only 13 to graduate in 1956, right? Encouraged by her father and her grandmother to pursue this path, she began her legal career in private practice with her brother. And she recalled, "I learned about gender bias in a sort of subtle way because my father would send me to the courthouse. The clerks would wait on everybody else. But because they thought I was a secretary, not me. And when he sent my brother, they would take him right away. It was very interesting." She made things more interesting when she moved to the district attorney's office, then staff counsel for the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court, then the Superior Court as a judge, and then as the first female justice of the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court, where she championed family leave, medical care, gender equality, minority rights. She worked tirelessly to improve the number of women on the bench in every level of the judiciary. A trailblazer and a champion, she has done even more, I think, for women by how she taught so many women to make change. She recalled how in speeches she would say, "Always look back and take another woman with you." I really meant that, and I did that. She did that, and more. Justice Abrams, it is my true honor to recognize you with this Celebration 60 award.
I first heard of the dean when I heard her father say, "TV is a vast wasteland and my daughter isn't going to watch it." I don't know if he let you watch it, but that's what he said. Oh, and I came here today and I was happy to find Langdell because Wasserstein, you need a a GPS to find anything. It is just a transformed building, but it's difficult to find around. That is the problem with a high-tech building. Let me say that both the faculty and the student body are more representative of the United States and the world than they were when I was here. Particularly the faculty, which was all white, male, and pretty much white. And they didn't really understand that we were the other half of the population. It was, I think, what do they call it now? A dual society. And in Myra Bradwell's case, Justice Bradley's concurrence said it was the job of women to be wives and mothers. And that, I think, was the faculty's belief for the most part. But let us just go on to what has happened. In 60 years, the student body is almost half women. It has got minorities, the faculty is more representative. The subject matter is clearly not what we had in the 1950s. It is more contemporary, and the building, which if you can find your way around, you can use all your gadgets. You can plug them up, you can run them, but it's just something beyond belief. When we first came here, of course, every day was an attack on women being in law school. Every day. Didn't matter. Professor Seavey called us girls, suggested that we all go to Florida in February. Of course, he was going to Puerto Rico because that's where the First Circuit sits in February. So, but he put it on us. Professor Leach had Ladies' Day, and on Yale Day, if Harvard were playing and it was here, he was sure to run his class till 1:20, 1:30, no matter what, and no matter how boring the subject. So, and Harvard is, in a way, a very influential institution, and for them to treat women this way meant that the world could treat women this way. So the 60 years that has passed has meant that women, by gaining acceptance here, have gained more acceptance in the working place of the world and are listened to. And no, I want to say that the most important thing was for the people to get the right to vote, even more important than Harvard, although Harvard doesn't agree with that. But other than that, how women are treated is very important. And you have to know when you're coming out after Harvard and everybody's attacked you. When you go in the DA's office and the police complain to the DA because they want a, quote, real lawyer, which I guess Harvard doesn't produce. Or alternatively, they didn't want me because Harvard only produces bleeding hearts. So you don't know where the prejudice comes, but it comes both ways. Then what you do is you say, you sort of earn your trust of the police and everything, and you get promoted to the court, where you can't do anything much about helping women, except to get other women to start coming to the court, start trying for judgeships, talking to the governor, the governor's council, asking a governor why he had no women in his counsel's office, and which, to his credit, Michael Dukakis did put 2 women on after that. But you had to ask. Men didn't have to ask. Now, the next thing that happens is when you get on the bench, the first thing they want to do is they give you all the cases that the men don't want to try. So I get, first case of an insurance company in which the insurance company doesn't want to pay because the death isn't accidental, it's murder. No, I think that's sort of an accidental death, but but I get the case. And it turns out that the body in the trunk of the car was a guy who was running around with 1 million bunnies, who were very popular then. And all the bunnies were coming in to testify. And all of a sudden, everybody wanted the case. It was unbelievable. And I had it, and they couldn't say, how did you get it? I said, it's an insurance case. And so then I had my next insurance case. I go to the SJC, and Mass Electric has this case. And Every disease known to man is listed as covered, except pregnancy. Every disease. I mean, I took it to my doctor. She said, that's not an American disease. That's not this, that's not that. And I said, I can't go out like this. My colleague said, but it was negotiated. And I was sitting there saying, it's not going out. So finally, what we said was, take out all the male-specific diseases or add pregnancy. And they added pregnancy, much to my surprise, because I thought they would take out the male-specific diseases, but that was beyond the pale, I guess. In any event, and the other thing that I found, and I want to stress this particularly to students, men think they're all qualified. Doesn't matter how they did, what they did, they are qualified no matter what. You have to coax women to say, oh, I didn't take evidence, I can't do this, I can't do that. I don't understand why their self-esteem is lower than men's. They're as educated, they're as smart, they go to the same schools, and yet they have a lower esteem, and I want the students to understand that they are every bit as good, especially the ones at Harvard. People don't like. And what is better right now for all of us is the faculty is also more diverse, more experienced in different kinds of lifestyles and different kinds of ways of thinking. So that I think in 60 years, Harvard has come an immense way, and if the world would come that way, we'd be in great shape.
We've given you a citation, but I think we should give you an ovation. So. Thank you. Now, last winter, I joined the New York chapter of the Harvard Law School Women's Alliance in a memorable, it's a great organization, in a memorable inaugural event honoring 14 Harvard Law School alumni from the New York area in the judiciary. And we shared stories about challenges and about progress, about inspiring recent graduates, about current students, about hard memories and good ones. And this weekend, in addition to recognizing Justice Abrams, we welcome 30 Harvard Law School alumni judges here. May I ask them now to stand so we can recognize you. Woo! 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 I think I saw a couple not standing. But anyway, this is really phenomenal. And thank you so much for being here and for the work that you do every day. One more thing I get to do before I step off the podium now is recognize the founders of the Celebration tradition, the Celebration 25 gang. Celebration 60 marks the 7th time that this group has come together and insisted that we make time to revel in accomplishments, spur further progress, and share the bonds of friendship and mutual regard. What's especially meaningful to me is that you, the Celebration 25 founders, started this all while students. Sheila James Kuehl in the class of 1978 recalls how the torts professor remarked, students used to come here in coats and ties. That kind of led her and her fellow women classmates to say, we might have improved things around here besides dress. And also to realize how relatively recently it had been that Harvard had admitted women. And they realized that in their graduation year, it would actually fall on the 25th anniversary of that moment. So they placed a small notice in the calendar of student activities, and they commandeered a basement room in Hastings Hall, and they launched Celebration 25. A week-long party, as it was described to me, held in the spring of 1978 to commemorate the 25th anniversary of the graduation of the first women from Harvard Law School. The administration, well, what can I say, was less than pleased. Now, that's one thing that has certainly changed. But the team was undaunted and planned a full program with panels and films and a keynote address by a professor at Columbia Law School who had attended Harvard but graduated from Columbia after the dean refused to accommodate her family's needs. And yes, that was Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Sheila recalled the strange joy that comes with a truly revolutionary act. We were disrespectful even in our energy, she said. Women were to be the center of the law, if only for a week. That same year witnessed the launch of the Harvard Women's Law Journal, now the Journal of Law and Gender. That's a long story. Devoted to advancing feminist jurisprudence, combining legal analysis with political and economic and historical and sociological perspectives. The journal publishes crucial articles on domestic violence, sexual harassment, reproductive rights, transgender legal rights, women in the military, marriage, divorce, rape, privacy, sexting. Beth Walensky from the class of 1979, one of the founding co-editors who regrets not being here today, she wrote to tell us about the founding, and she said, and I quote, "We shared a vision about a publication dedicated to examining legal issues pertaining to women, or as we eventually branded ourselves, the impact of women on the law and the impact of the law on women." She loved editing the first piece in the journal, which happened to be by Ruth Bader Ginsburg, an article called "The Equal Rights Amendment is the Way." She remembered the dungeon-like office, yes, in a basement, complete with hissing, clanging steam radiators. But, says Beth, it was more than a place where a law journal was in the works. At a time when women students were in the minority, we had not yet cracked the 25% barrier. It provided a place for us to stretch, discover, invent. Founders of C25 and Harvard Women's Law Journal are here today, and I would like to invite you to come up here with me. Carol Schrager, class of 79. Patricia Riley, class of 79. Cynthia Sellen Russo, class of 79. Please. We're going to have a picture right over here.
Sorry.
Okay, that's good. Awesome. So I just want to say thank you for your revolutionary act. Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
I want to thank them. I want to thank everybody here for inspiring us to stretch, to discover, to invent, to do that here and now, for the hours ahead and the days ahead. I'm going to return the microphone to Marissa, and I really look forward to debating, stretching, and celebrating together. Welcome, welcome.
Well, that was a wonderful kickoff and such an incredible way to hear the history of women at Harvard and honor some of the most amazing trailblazers. So thank you, Dean Minow. Thank you, everyone who's here. We have a lot on the programming agenda, and we kick off with three concurrent sessions at 2:45. All the sessions are in Austin Hall. There's speed networking at 5:45, and then dinner at 7. And I hope, on behalf of the entire programming committee and the law school, that you enjoy the program and enjoy celebrating. So let's go.